That's beautiful cinema.
Hey, what's up? This is a Dead End Road show thing, I guess. I don't know if we're going to call it beautiful cinema or, what exactly it's going to be, but we decided to break out the movie review / discussion part of the show to try something new. So if you're listening, thanks. That's pretty cool. And so for this first episode, edition, whatever you want to call it, we watched Irma Vep, the HBO miniseries, and we're going to talk about it.
Did you want to say like who you are in case there is somebody new?
Oh, sure. This is Bill and Ian. We're just hanging out, talking about some fucking French films, Sorry, we're usually not used to recording two back-to-back podcasts, so it's a little different. Even though it shouldn't really be all that much different because we would record this segment at the tail end of the show. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, there's a slightly different vibe, and I don't know what it is.
It's the ghost of Irma Vep that's haunting us.
Maybe that might be it. Yeah. Or maybe it's just that I moved my podcast window over to my second monitor.
That could be it too, yeah.
And I've thrown everything off. I've ruined it. But yeah, we watched Irma Vep. I watched 6 episodes yesterday.
See, that's interesting. We'll get into how you consume it, because I think that's part of. We'll get into that, but because what I did was I watched 1 episode a day for the past week.
I had a feeling that's probably what you were going to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to try to do, or at least approximate it, because that's usually how I watch things anyway.
Yeah,
is something close to that, like if it's something that I'm into. Unless it's like anime or whatever, then I just kind of power through it. But I sort of ran out of time.
Yeah, no, it's different when we're going to be doing this and you have like a set date for it.
Yeah, and the other thing was that I watched the first episode, and at the end of it, it felt like such a self-contained thing. Mm-hmm. And like what you had said last week sort of stuck in my head, because you had seen a few by that point, I guess. Or maybe just a couple.
Yeah.
You had said like, oh, and if you don't finish it, don't worry about it. And then at the time I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna watch the whole thing. But then I watched the first episode, and then it was like so self-contained, and I was like, oh, you know what? I feel like I got it.
Okay. See, I didn't mean it that way. I just meant like, oh, if you don't get through the whole thing this week, we can just push the recording to a later date. Oh. It was like a logistical thing. It had nothing to do with the show itself.
Well, yeah, I know, but I still figured you meant like that you could do the brunt of the discussion because you had seen most of it, and then I could still talk about what I had seen.
No, that's not what I meant.
Oh, well, anyway, but still, what you had said was kind of in the back of my head, just a little bit.
Sure.
And so I kind of put off watching it for a couple days because I was like, I felt like I got it from that first episode. I was like, okay, yeah, I got it. But then I kept watching, and the show throws a lot at you.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say conceptually, but that sounds really pretentious.
No, it's okay. The show, in a way, is pretentious. And I don't even mean that as, like, necessarily a bad thing.
Right. But, like, what it's throwing a lot at you to think about filmmaking and art. And it's talking about art so much and what that means and what that means to specific characters and really what that means for the director. Mm-hmm. Because by the end of it, there's like 3 layers at least, which is which after seeing the movie that the show is based on, you kind of expected that.
Yeah, I actually count 4 layers.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's a 4-layer dip.
Yeah.
We expected that going in. We just didn't know to what degree. Because so I thought that that this was going to be a remake of the movie originally.
Me too.
And it turns out it kind of is, but I didn't know to what degree, and I didn't expect it to be a remake of the movie in the way that it's a remake of the movie.
Yeah, because Renee, the director, the character in the show who is the director, is basically meant to be Olivier Assayas, the actual showrunner and director.
Yes.
And so like this TV series, in this TV series, Renee has made the 1990 whatever version of Irma Vep.
Yeah, 1996.
96,
like
yeah.
That. Yeah. And the reveal when that happens, which doesn't happen until like the 3rd episode.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Was like one of those wide-eyed moments even though it was like almost like a throwaway conversation, like part of the conversation, I should say. And it was just like, oh Jesus, this is what he's doing.
Yep.
With this, it's like it became so autobiographical at that point that I was like, oh God, like the layers that you now have to peel back, because he's now a fictionalized version of the director, and then a fictionalized version of Maggie Chung.
Yes.
Is now a character.
Yeah, Maggie
like,
Chung
okay.
no longer acts, so I guess there was never a possibility of her coming back for this.
Right. Well, or based on whatever their relationship is at this point.
True.
That whatever degree it was fictionalized in this, you know, however real that may or may not be.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to gauge sometimes, because Renee is a character. Like this show, a lot of it is very much satirical of like the movie making process, as much as it is like a genuine sort of love letter to it. And I feel like Renee is the most like comical character. Like he's very much taking the brunt of so much of the humor in the series.
Yeah.
So I really like that Olivier is very like kind of like self-deprecating, you know? Because otherwise maybe it could be insufferable.
Sure.
But it also does make you wonder like how much of it is based on like real relationships.
Sure.
You know?
He's like it's like the fictionalized Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Sure.
Yeah. To reference another HBO property.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it says a lot, mostly because there's a lot of conversations in the show. And I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, it's tough.
After,
We've talked about shows and movies. We haven't actually like tackled an 8-hour series all at once. So you know, we can kind of, you know, talk about whatever. We don't have to be comprehensive.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot going on here. Because like you said, like you have the remake of Irma Vep, which is conveyed like there are differences in aspect ratio and like lighting and like that you can tell immediately when you're watching a scene from Irma Vep. Obviously, like they're also in character and costume and everything.
Now, hold on.
Yes.
When you say Irma Vep,
oh, this is tough. It's tough to talk about because there's
because
it's the vampires. The vampires.
The vampires.
Yes.
The Vampires is the name of the silent film series from 1917 or whatever.
Yeah.
That is being made into a series now.
Yeah.
In the show. That was also adapted in 1996 by Olivier Assayas, and in the fiction of the show was also made in 1996.
Wait, you say adapted? Was the silent film a real thing? Because I assumed this whole time that was also a fictional thing they created.
I thought it was real.
Really? I guess I never looked into that. But I assumed that was all also a construction from the show.
No, it's totally real.
Oh, so all that footage was actually from 1917 or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, there was even in the credits they even said like with reproduction permission or something like that. Like
is it wild that I didn't know that?
Yeah, there was no way that they could. That was very much
I thought maybe they just used like equipment and made it look like a 1917.
That would have been more impressive than
so I guess I was giving the show credit for that.
Any of the other filmmaking that went on.
Yeah. Okay. So Musadora and her memoirs, that was all real?
It's a real person. I can't speak to her memoirs being real.
Because that is another layer that we were discussing that sort of comes into play of later in the series where...
Yes, like about halfway through.
Yeah.
They are then we are either shown, I can't tell if it's actually being adapted, are the actress who played the original Irma Vep in 1917, her memoirs.
Yes.
And what was your read on that?
Was it being adapted from, like, what do you mean?
Like was that actually being part of being made as part of the show that they were making? And, like, being included?
No, I didn't read it that way. I thought that was for
Yeah.
us. I thought that was for us, the viewers of.
I thought so too.
Yeah, but I loved it though. I loved it so much. If it's true, like if these stories are true, it is wild because there's the example of the explosion scene where Musadora and her co-star are in like a restaurant type setting, and there's a bunch of extras that they have for the scene, and so they basically divide the extras in half. And they say, if you want to be part of this explosion that's going to happen, we will pay you double for the day's work.
If you want to be in the front.
If you want to be in the front. Yeah, if you want to be like exposed to that. What they don't tell them is that there is a significant chance that you will be injured. And that does happen. There's like a bunch of injuries on the set. And then there's another one towards the end where Musadora is filming like a very crucial scene of Irma Vep, of the vampires. And there's like it involves her being shot. And the sort of like lackadaisical way they go about it with very little preparation results in her actually being injured because the gun is fired off too close to her. And there's the train tracks.
The train,
my God, the train tracks. They filmed this scene where she lays down on train tracks and they're waiting because they're on a schedule because they're waiting for the real train. The real train is coming. And so they lay her down and they stick a camera there and she just has to endure the train running directly over, like on top of her. And they do it in one take and she moves on with her day. It's truly wild. The sort of like risks that the actors were taking and the sort of recklessness of the filmmaking and just all that stuff.
And well, like now that you know that silent film footage was real,
stunning, even more impactful. Like I figured even if that wasn't real, I figured they were basing it off of real stories.
Sure.
You know, like real stuff that happened in the film industry in those very like in the days of infancy of the medium, where it's like the Wild West, you know, anything goes. But the fact that it was real, like, man, that's crazy. We're
shown most of the time we're shown scenes from the vampires as they happened, right? Like we're shown the original footage, and then we're shown the remake in the fiction of shooting this, this series.
Yeah.
Like how they adapted it.
I was gonna ask you how you felt about that, because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of scenes, and honestly, like for me, it's a convoluted story. It's fairly hard to follow. And for me, the meaning that I got out of it was not so much in the scenes themselves, but the context surrounding the scenes, because you usually see what's happening directly before or after, or what the actors, their dynamics, like in quote unquote real life are. So like everything outside of the scenes themselves were where I took things away from, essentially.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Completely agree with you. By like in the later stages of the series, I could not follow what was going on in the vampires at all. There's been 8 million betrayals.
Yeah. It's like Irma comical.
Irma Vep has almost been caught, so many times, and, different gang takeovers and all this kinds of shit. I couldn't tell you a single thing.
Which, like, because they're using this production of the vampires to be like this like hot, quote unquote highbrow indie television series, right? Which, like, the commentary surrounding that holds up. Like, they do say a lot about that and how it compares to like Hollywood and bigger productions.
They use your favorite word a bunch,
which is
prestige.
Oh, prestige, yes. But the thing is, when you actually watch these scenes that they're filming, it's like, this is like barely watchable. So it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. Yeah, the remake. It's like, this is nothing about this is good.
Yes. The acting is really bad.
Yeah.
Like the first episode, even outside of the scenes they're shooting, I actually thought that the acting was pretty poor, aside from Alicia Vikander. And it was really noticeable. The guy that plays the other director, the director of the blockbuster.
Yes, that is Herman character's name.
Yes. He cannot act to save his life.
What do you mean? I thought he was perfectly fine.
No. his eyes go like dead whenever he talks.
I viewed him very much as like a chill dude. And like when you contrast his character with Renee, who's like so spirally and like off the walls, and then Herman comes in, he's like cool, calm, and collected. I felt that was part of the character. That was like the contrast between the two.
His eyes are like dead.
Nah, no, I don't think so. I didn't. At least I wasn't picking up on that.
I thought he was terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. And then that his wife, I thought she was terrible.
No, I thought she was electric, especially in the beginning when she has that like the power dynamics with Mira.
I thought that was hacky.
No, I thought that was like electric. I was into that. I like that a lot because she's like the former assistant, and they had a relationship. But now now Lori is her name. She's married to Herman. But Mira is still like pines after her or lusts after her, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like it's complicated. You know, like even Mira herself is kind of working through that throughout the series. But no, I like that quite a bit.
The relationship stuff, easily the weakest part for me.
Oh, interesting.
It didn't do much. Because at a certain point, and like they even mentioned this, it's like everybody just wants to fuck Alicia Vikander, and like. So,
okay, but it's more nuanced than that because the focus there is, yes, that is true because she's this big movie star, but you're also seeing like how she responds to it, which is where I think a lot of the really good character work for Mira comes in, you know, because she's like so composed when faced with the celebrity of it all, you know, but also it wears on her too. And I thought that was like such an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah.
I was into it. Obviously you weren't, but I was into that whole aspect of the show.
I could have taken it or leave it, you know, like.
Okay.
It wasn't terrible, but it was like the weakest link, you know.
But then you have like later on in the series, like there's the iconic scene from the Irma Vep movie where Maggie Chung gets dressed up in the cat suit and she does some method acting around the hotel. Yeah. And so like Irma Vep is this thief. And so she goes around the hotel and she ends up in somebody's room and she steals a necklace. And that whole focus in the movie, the 90s movie, is on Maggie Chung. And the person that she steals from is just like a throwaway character. There's really nothing that character has to do with anything, right? But in this show, they expand upon that. And they take the pearl stealing, the necklace stealing scene, and they make that part of the Mira and Lori and Herman relationship. Which I loved. I thought that adding that sort of like personal element to it just like elevated the whole thing.
Yeah, I guess. But then you also have her ex-boyfriend.
Yes.
And his new girlfriend.
That did not land for me.
Yeah.
Because there's the halfway point of the series, one of the episode ends with the ex-boyfriend calling up Mira to talk about the very heavy subject of his wife's miscarriage. And his wife is overseas doing like a stage production or something.
Well, they're both in Europe, so it wouldn't be overseas, but yeah.
In a different country. That's true. Thank you for that. But yeah, so then he comes over to Mira's hotel and it ends with them having sex, which just like, for one thing, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
On his part especially, but I feel like on both of their parts, more so on his part. But also, like, that's not really even, like, it doesn't go anywhere.
No.
It just kind of happens. It ends an episode, which I feel like any episode ending in a limited series should have some significance. And yet, that really didn't go anywhere. The rest of them did. The rest of them did, but this one just kind of didn't, they didn't explore that further. And I feel like to sort of have this surrounding the miscarriage and, like, what that entails, like, psychologically, to just like have that be like a dead end. Yeah,
especially for him to be having like that was him saying it, you know, like not his girlfriend, wife, whatever she was to him.
Yeah, you never actually see or hear her until the finale.
Right, and then she like doesn't
bring
care
it up
about it,
or bring it up, or is hopefully moved on from it, but you don't know, like you don't get that insight.
Well, they're about to have sex.
True,
and then he says, like, do you want to try again or something like that?
Okay.
And that's it. That's
it, yeah. By the way, she's played by Kristen Stewart, which is a really cool surprise. I mean, not too much of a surprise because she starred in a number of Olivier's movies, but it was still cool to see. But yeah, like you just said, it doesn't really... it just seemed like they were doing it for the sake of it. They didn't really have much interest in exploring that avenue.
Yeah.
Which I know we're jumping around, or maybe I'm just the one jumping around, but I did want to bring up my biggest criticism of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves another thing where they bring something up, a topic, an issue, and it seems like they're bringing it up, but they have no interest in actually like diving into it and being nuanced about it, which is the quote unquote rape scene.
Yeah.
So in the 5th episode, I believe, there is a scene in The Vampires that they are filming, and it involves Irma Vep being, I guess, like drugged or hypnotized. I forget which it is.
I think they say hypnotized.
Hypnotized, so she's unconscious, and so her captor is like feeling her up. I don't know how else to put it. And so Renee has this fixation, this sort of like enthusiasm, this almost obsession with this particular scene and how he wants it to come across, and he views it like as explicitly sexual. And it's almost like he's fetishizing it. There's a lot of fetishizing Irma Vep, the character with the cat suit, and the way Renee like talks about her and all that, right?
Yeah,
but
he has a whole thing going on.
He's got a whole thing going on. He has a therapist. Like there's a whole But no, this scene in particular, there's Renee received some backlash for it with some of the cast and crew because they view it as Irma Vep being sexually assaulted, and the show is sort of like fetishizing or sexualizing that. And Renee like lashes back. He's like, no, that's not the case. I'm just like adapting from the source material. But the thing is, like, there's this one crew member, and to this point in the series, she has not had a single line of dialogue, but she speaks out and gives her view on the rape scene and why it's problematic. And it's like she's there just for that purpose. And like we basically never see her again, maybe one other time.
Are you talking about the one that's at the other table?
At the other table.
Yeah, she shows up. She has one other line.
She has one other line.
Because it was weird. She has one other line where she's like at like a producer's meeting, like she was a producer.
Yeah.
So it's weird that she was like at this like crew intervention.
Yeah, that's the thing. She's not a character, to be fair. Like, she's not a character of any significance to the show. And yet they give her this line, sort of combating Renee's view. And then immediately we get a bunch of stuff from Renee about how he's excusing his perspective and excusing the scene. And he's like, this is fine. Everybody's attacking me. But this is art, you know, it's the source material, yada, yada. And that's kind of it. And like, they bring up this whole topic of conversation here surrounding a rape scene, but yet they also don't want to really dive into it. They just kind of want Renee to make his point, and then we can move on from it. That's what it felt like to me. That's what it felt like to me.
It's not quite what happens. Because then he does show concern about it, because then he goes and talks to Mira.
But then Mira backs him up.
He asks if she's comfortable with it, which I think is a decent way to approach it.
You know what it is? You know what it is?
To ask if the lead is involved, is comfortable with the scene. She does back him up and basically shares the same perspective that he does.
That's my issue right there. I agree with you how if this was a real production, asking the lead actor, like that's the perfect way to go about it.
Yeah.
But like I'm thinking of this as a TV show written by Olivier Assayas and what he himself is trying to convey with this episode. And you come to the conclusion that like, oh yeah, this scene is acceptable and that's it. I'm going to fire the guy that lashed out at me. I'm going to kill him off because he's resentful. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I was thinking of it along those lines. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I felt like if you're gonna tackle something with some like that has like weight behind it in history.
It did feel like it was easy to write Mira agreeing with it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they completely misplaced the proper rationale for the scene behind a character, like an unreliable character. Because the person that has the best rationale for it is the crackhead.
Yeah, Gottfried, yeah.
Yeah. He's the one that says, my character's a villain. He's a bad guy. He does bad shit.
Sure. Well,
Like,
there's
yeah.
that, but also there is the lens through which you, the viewer, watch, or the director even portrays the scene. Like, there's the male gaze of it
Yes.
all. There's the sexualization of it. Like, you can have a shitty character doing a thing, but if the movie itself is sort of like backing him up in the way it portrays it,
Well,
right?
I do think that there's the strong point that it's like, well, then if he says this to the guy that's like, you know, I don't want to say offended, but like the one that is like bringing this issue to him, he's like, well, you know, you're turned on by it, and so like that's also showing a problem with you, that you're turned on by, you know, an assault,
Right.
and so that's also part of the point, which I think is a strong argument.
Sure.
Like even if it's meant to be, you know, titillating or, you know, whatever, it's like if you can still recognize that it's a villainous evil act, then, you know, you're good. Like like he's Renee recognizes, he's like, yeah, I'm a pervert. Oh God, you know, like he's, you know, like he does come to that realization in that conversation with Mira.
Who was it that made the argument, the false argument of like, oh, Irma Vep herself is a villainess or whatever, and so she like had it coming, right?
He did originally.
See, yeah, there's that, right?
Yes, that was whenever the person at the other table came in. That was her like retort was like, well, what? So she deserves it? Like that? That's just rape culture. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, that's obviously, you know, that's a fucking no-go.
Yeah.
But I feel like the rest of, like, at that point they were clearly trying to show that he was like defensive and sputtering.
Yes.
You know, but I feel like the rest of the the rest of his points were fairly salient about the scene. I think he was just like incredibly defensive over his, you know.
Yeah,
art.
I guess that's part of what for me, it felt a little bit too much like Olivier having a problem with anyone getting in the way of his like artistic vision, whether they have a valid argument or not. And it's like, well, look, it's, you know, it's art. It's the way that I interpret it, and you shouldn't have a problem with that.
I feel like that is the general point that he wanted to get across, while also touching on, you know, contemporary issues in film.
Right.
Like, you know, not only sex scenes, but sexual dynamics in film and on sets, and you know, cultural conversations that have been going on since Irma Vep was made in 1996.
Yeah, there was like a couple characters were talking about intimacy coordinators, which I believe is a fairly recent role to film.
Right.
I think only over the past few years has that been implemented in a lot of productions. Which I like that scene, and it also does sort of reflect with the real world, because there was an article this week, I forget who said it, was a very high profile actor said it in an interview, was like along the lines of intimacy coordinators just get in the way of actors' natural chemistry, which is nonsense. Let me see who said that. I want to get that. Sean Bean.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was Sean Bean. He says it like ruins the spontaneity of intimate scenes. Well, no, like that's not what it's doing. It's making sure that everybody is comfortable.
Just do a quick Sean Bean allegations search.
Oh, Christ.
Sean Bean arrested over allegations he assaulted his fourth wife. That didn't take long.
So maybe he's not the best. Maybe he's not the voice that needs to be speaking out about intimacy coordinators, right? Like, they're there for a reason. You know,
it's easiest Google search of my life.
Yeah, it's depressing, really.
Pinpointed.
I don't know. I just that episode didn't quite land for me. It felt a little bit too preachy, I guess.
They do get a little close to that on a couple moments, right? There's Gottfried's party, you know.
Yes.
Where he makes a speech about how film has to be dangerous, you know, and all that shit. It's like, okay, all right, we get it.
What'd you think of that character?
I I didn't like him at first at all.
Yeah.
Especially whenever he said that he's a Republican.
Yeah. And he used to be gay.
He used to be gay.
Which, like, I don't know
how.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I don't know how that works either.
I think that might have been a dig at Milo Yiannopoulos, however you say that dude's name. That old
really?
white right-wing commentator. Yeah, he was a. Well, I say he was gay because that's what he claims. Yeah. So I think that might have been a dig at that guy.
Okay.
Even though he's been out of the public consciousness for a number of years. Just an alt-right weirdo.
Sure.
He defended pedophilia. Yeah, it was
Jesus.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so like I at first I didn't like this character, but he did grow on me.
Yeah,
I have to say.
I think that was the intention. That was like the trajectory of him.
Yeah. I did think they were going to kill him off though.
That whole ordeal where he he was going for the autoerotic asphyxiation, but he took it a little too far and he ended up in the hospital.
Yes.
It was pretty amazing. But then he like wakes up. They weren't sure if he would ever wake up, but he woke up and just like escaped out the window out. And then like passed out in the hotel.
Yeah.
But then filmed like the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was all just like, I guess, a bit because it really didn't amount to anything.
Yeah, I guess it was just supposed to be like a moment of tension because he is like almost like dead or dying at the same time that Renee goes missing.
Oh, right. Yeah. The whole production is like in limbo.
It's like falling apart, you know?
Mm-hmm. Which, speaking of, I wanted to mention Regina, Mira's assistant and aspiring filmmaker.
Yes.
Great character.
Who, despite being a lesbian, is my type. God damn it.
Oh, beyond. See, the thing, I wasn't going to say this. The thing is, like, early on, before she really has like her own arc, which she very much does. She's, like I said, Mira's assistant, and so she's like in the background with scenes involving Mira.
Yeah.
But like with her face being her face, she's not a background character,
right?
If you know what I mean. Like it's like it just doesn't work in that way because she's stunning. But no, I really liked her like arc because as the production is like in limbo and people are missing, the solution is that she will fill in as the director for that day, which was so cool because you get to see like insight into her philosophy as like a former film student and just like a lover of the medium and just like what she would bring to the table. Yeah. And it shows itself stylistically in the scene that she makes because it's very like avant-garde and like experimental, and she references this specific filmmaker, which I forget who that was, but she shows like a clip to Mira like on their way to the production, and she makes this speech about like how movies show us like the light in the world and like there's magic to them and like stuff about Lucifer and like this whole like monologue
how movies are rituals.
Yeah, it was just
to summon Satan.
It was borderline it was like borderline pretentious, but like I was all for it. Like I'm like, hell yeah, this is great. Also, I don't know if this is coincidence or not, but she starts talking about how movies involve magic and like that whole thing. And after that happens, you start to get Mira going through walls and like the sort of spirit.
I think that was very much intentional.
Yeah, the spirit of Irma Vep sort of embodying her or vice versa. And like how that played into Mira's character towards the final like couple episodes, which I thought was so cool. Yeah, both as like a philosophical thing, like a spirituality thing involving movies and like how your process of like acting and sort of taking over a character, but also just like logistically having her spy on these people and being able to navigate the hotel rooms and stuff, you know, and visually too, like her like sort of haunting over all these other characters and being like this presence, you know. Like watching Renee make his cuts of the movie and he's sort of like losing it and then spying on her ex-lover and that whole situation. I don't know, it was just really cool.
I don't know if this is anything, but I know that there's a camera line of cameras and a film format called Black Magic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. What did you make of him, quote unquote, destroying the movie again?
I just took that as like a way to adapt the ending of the Irma Vep movie from the 90s and how it sort of signals a low point for Renee and his sort of like constant struggle with the whole production, whether it's like how to frame a scene or whether it's exercising the ghosts of the set or like the very strained relationship he has with the idea of Irma Vep herself.
Right.
He's obviously a filmmaker who is very passionate. It's a passion project, and that can spiral, right? You can get so involved and so fixated that you end up losing the plot, so to speak. And that's kind of like what that is, right? It's him like just like not knowing how to proceed, not thinking he can proceed, right? And it also does sort of like signal, okay, this is where the Irma Vep movie ended, but there's still an episode left of the show.
Right.
And there's like a rebound from that, right? Because Mira's like, oh, we need you back because this is your movie. This is like your vision. And it really can't, like, for as capable of a director as Herman is, it's like, this is a movie that really only you can finish the way it was intended to be. So I don't know. I just thought that was like a great like setup point to the finale, essentially.
Yeah.
And also around that time, I think, if I'm getting the timeline right, is where you have that really grand musical number with Irma Vep making her return to like the Vampire Lounge.
Yes.
And that ends an episode and also like bleeds into the title sequence of the finale, which I had to mention because I loved it so damn much. It was so good. That's like my shit right there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the music was scored by Thurston Moore of Sonic Youth.
Oh.
And because Sonic Youth plays during a big scene in the original Irma Vep.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Because I saw the name in the credits originally, and I was like, wait, that name looks very familiar. And yep.
That's really cool.
Sonic Youth guy, yep.
Are they still like around as a band?
I don't think so, no. But I think he's done the score for a few other movies. I don't think anything as like artsy as this.
Right. Yeah. So that was really cool. I don't know. I'm still jumping around. I'm sorry, but
we have been all over the place, but it's all right.
No, the other thing.
That's kind of how the series is, though.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to follow in that it's like, okay, it's the beginning of production and then the end of production, but like conceptually, it is sort of jumping from idea to idea, depending on what comes up in like the filmmaking.
Yeah. So was there other stuff that you wanted to touch upon?
No, I mean, like it touches on, you know, like stuff we talk about a lot, you know, like quote unquote content.
Yes.
You know, and so much of the shit that goes on.
Yeah, that's kind of the last point that I wanted to make, which was the timing of watching this show in the past week.
Yeah.
A show that is on HBO. And with all of the stuff in the news about Warner Brothers, the messaging of it, like you can look at this show and I think rightfully so sort of dismiss it as like bourgeois and a bit pretentious. And just like, you know, really, really hyping up the art of filmmaking, which it's doing all that, you know, it's very French. I'm a sucker for that type of like French cinema, but like there's a message here and there's a specific scene late. It's between Mira and she talking to Regina. I forget who she's talking to, but they're basically talking about how, is the scene entertaining enough or something along those lines? And then the other character strikes back. They're like, well, you know, this is art and art can be more than entertainment, right? Cause like so much of stuff that you see now on like the streaming platforms are just purely entertainment.
Yep.
And that's fine, but like there also can be more. Like you can sit down and watch something and like, I don't know, grow from it, learn from it, have a reaction and emotion to it. Like it can be so much more than that. And they sort of reflect that in that scene. And I think to a larger extent, that's kind of what the show is as a whole. Like it's about the filmmaking process. It's like romanticizing that process, but it's also saying like you have in the finale, Renee is like almost depressed when the production wraps up, because he feels like empty, you know, because it's about more than making a show. It's you're putting so much more into it than that, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think that it's funny as the executives of these huge corporations will just treat a piece of art like a tax write-off, as nothing more than a bottom line than a number, you know? I think that message is an important one. And I appreciate that this show did that, as sort of like bourgeois as it can come across, and like, oh, these are rich actors and they're living this exuberant lifestyle and they're, you know, running around and there's this drama, but it's, you know, they're making a film, yada, yada. But it's like, you know, at the core of it, there is a vision there, there's art there, and that gets lost, I think, a lot of the time. So it is still, I don't know, as someone who loves movies, I appreciated that.
Yeah. You just think about like so much of the shit, and I mean that just in the sense of using a noun and also in the pejorative of the stuff that like is released is just stuff to fill up time.
Yes.
For the next thing. And then the next thing. It's just to spend time, and maybe you consider that a waste of time or that's time well spent to you. Either way, it's just to fill up time. And whether you consider that, like, you know, you hear about some show somebody watched and like, oh yeah, that's good. And like, that's like the only word you hear.
I know.
Right? That's a good one, you know?
Yep.
And then people are always looking for the next good one. Like, it's just this constant cycle of just going through just content.
It reminds me of like
over.
it's like if you're deciding what you want to have for dinner that day. In a way, it's like, okay, I'm gonna eat this tonight. I'll just eat something tomorrow because I have to do that to survive. You know, I mean, it really does feel like you could throw anything on the TV sometimes, and it's like, okay, well, this is passing the time for me,
right?
But I prefer for there to be more to it than that.
I wish more people would just think critically about what they watch or what they, you know, what they think they enjoy, and if they really enjoy it, and moreover what they actually enjoy about it. Yeah. And try to hammer home, like try to actually think about like something that they think that they, and I'm not trying to like make them like hate something that they love, right? That's not what I'm saying. Like try to hone in on the feeling of what makes something quote unquote good to them. Yeah. Like truly.
Yeah. And that can be difficult if you are passively engaged, like if you're passively watching TV or films. And by that, I mean like so many people will go onto Netflix, they'll look at whatever's like in the top 10 at that time, and they'll press play without a second thought. And that's what they watch.
And if you're doing that, is it really quote unquote good?
Right.
Like if that is what it's making you do, is making you constantly reach for your phone or like talk to your friends while it's on, is it really quote unquote good? Yeah. If that's your reaction to it, like that's what the line between TV and movies and whatever is blurred, and like this talks about that too, you know. And like David Lynch did this, you know, God, how many years ago now with The Return? Yes. It's like half a decade at this point,
yeah,
right?
I think 2017, wasn't it?
Jesus Christ. Where he said it was, the whole thing was a movie, you know, and that was 22 hours long. Yeah. And it's like, okay, yeah, fine, but he was right. Like, was he wrong? I don't think so.
Well, it was like, it was still episodic.
Sure, but
honestly, like, this is the least interesting discussion that this show and other things have tackled. Like, I really don't care.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not wrong.
No, he's not. He's
not. So like the line has been blurred to death. So that's what I'm just saying. So like whenever I say TV show or movie, it's all the same.
Well, yeah, because movie stars are on TV shows now, and
sure,
yeah, everything.
I just hate using the word content whenever I'm talking about something that's actually decent. You know?
No, because content does serve it up like it's a meal or like it's something that you're just like consuming for the sake of it. Whereas you're not actually like engaging with the art at the core of it.
Exactly. I forgot where I was even going because I brought up.
No, because I interrupted. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's just like, you know, he was onto this at least 5 years ago,
Yeah.
In fact, I guess he was onto this whenever he, came into TV, making a parody of soap operas.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually also a film series, if you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish people would think more critically about, things that they like. And that doesn't mean, like, people mishear that word. Criticism does not mean, finding the negatives in things that you enjoy. It means actually examining, things that you are taking part in, because watching it is taking part in it. Like, that is, when something is made, that is the one process done, right?
Yes.
Then the next process is, for the audience. And so you need to take part in that. And, hey, I guess that's what this is. This is one part of that.
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing right here.
Yeah, whether it's being done well or not is up for debate, but it's the intention.
I didn't mean to get, wistful, but I guess it happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's so much of what I appreciate about the show, because it does feel like it's fighting back at that sort of like, I don't know, contentment or passivity or whatever you want to call it. Like, I just, if you really want to find good art, you're most likely not going to do it by being passive about it and just going onto Netflix and looking at the top 10. Like, sure, there can be good things that come up on there, and there have been, but like, you have to like actually like seek it out.
You have to, yeah, like this is like, you have to examine why you like things, why you're feeling that way. If something like makes you angry, even, like, you have to know why. You have to know why you hate something.
Yes.
I know why I hate Coda.
Oh God.
And
I know why I love
no, but
Coda.
Seriously. But yeah, but like, seriously, like,
You brought it up this time, not me.
I know I did, but like that, like, these are the spectrums of reaction, right?
Yeah, can I bring something up? So Letterboxd,
sure.
I've used for a long time, and every time when I log a movie, if I like it, well, I do a rating, but I also will heart it if I like it or don't like it, right? It's a binary thing, the hearting. Yeah. And I've looked at all the stuff I've watched this year, which is less than normal. Like, I've been watching less than I usually do, but every single film that I have logged on Letterboxd this calendar year, I have liked, which is, I don't know what to make of that. Whether over time I have come to learn what I enjoy or not, or whether my ability to like criticize has diminished. I'm not sure which one that is, but
maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it's you have to know more about the reasons why you have your interests, and you can't just be served by just purely nonsensical computer calculations.
Yes.
That truly don't make sense. Especially whenever they're designed to feed you content that is just made as cheaply as possible to serve as wide an audience as possible.
Yes.
You're not going to get those strong reactions from yourself.
No.
So yeah.
Because there's no discourse surrounding these shows that like top the Netflix list on a given week. Unless it's like, Stranger Things or some like monoculture thing like that. But like, for the most part, these things go onto the platform, everybody watches them, and then a week later you forget they exist.
Right.
Because that's what they're designed to do. Because then by then you have another thing.
Yeah, whatever movie 8 celebrities are in.
Yes.
That was made in a weekend.
Yes. Netflix even like came out with that mission statement like a year or two ago. They're like, we're going to have a movie out every single week on the platform, a new movie. Saying nothing about the potential quality or anything like that, but it's just that the fact that they have one is enough. It's whatever keeps people subscribed. Anyway, this sort of this turned into like two like jaded people discussing. I don't even know what this turned into. Was there anything else about Irma Vep? I mean, I liked it quite a bit. I've discussed this on the main podcast. I've been in like a TV rut this year, which is devastating when you consider that there's more good TV coming out now than there has ever been in history. But for whatever reason, I've had trouble engaging, which is a me problem. But this show, I feel like has sort of like broken me free of my issues, at least for right now. Like, I've been really into this, and now it's gotten me back into watching more stuff. So I appreciate that,
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The show talks about, bingeability, of programs, and how like what they're making isn't going to be bingeable, and shit like that.
Yes.
And here I am, and I was able to watch 6 episodes of it yesterday. I mean, I had different circumstances, but I was able to do it.
See, to me, that's unimaginable.
Sure.
I physically probably can't do that.
Sure.
But like for me, like I think the ideal is 1 episode per day of anything. I think it gives you enough time to take in the episode on its own. But it also just like there's a rhythm to it where like you don't have to wait like a full week, and you're appreciating the episode, but then you remain like into it because you're watching it frequently enough, if that makes sense.
Like I said, that's how I usually operate.
Yeah,
especially with hour-long dramas. Yeah.
I don't think, somehow we didn't talk about how insanely good Alicia Vikander is at the core of this movie. Oh,
yeah. Well, I kind of did.
We did, yeah.
Other than, the first episode, I thought she was, the only decent actor. but that does fall away, like, yeah. But yeah, she's incredible.
I just thought, like, there's, like, sort of, I almost don't know how to describe just, like, the energy of her character, the aura almost of her character, just, like, the way she, like, would navigate business conversations and confrontations on set and kind of, like, awkward conversations that come up, just, like, her demeanor, Mira, that is, like, as Alicia Vikander's portraying it, there was just something, like, so naturalistic about it.
Yeah, she felt like completely realized.
That's really what it is. She was a real person on screen.
Yeah.
And that's really like, can you ask for anything more than that?
Yeah. It's actually very similar to the way that, Maggie Chung just kind of felt like, oh yeah, that's probably Maggie Chung.
Yeah.
In the original.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was another thing I had about this movie I was going to bring up. It was weird how, so one of the cast members on the Vampires remake is Cynthia Kang. She's like one of the sort of background vampires. She has like a couple prominent scenes.
Yeah, she's Lily Flower.
Lily Flower, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, she had like her own stuff going on, like the actor, but then you get to this scene where she is about to like wrap up and she's having this conversation with Renee, and he gets super weird about how he wanted her to like be the Jade Lee or the Maggie Chung of this movie, even though she's playing a completely different character. Yes. And I'm like, what is the similarity here other than they're both Asian?
Yeah, they're both Chinese actresses.
That was like weird.
Yeah.
And a bit creepy.
Oh, it was very creepy.
Which
yeah,
like I'm sure that was intentional.
That was the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
because there was the whole thing earlier about how the financer of the series like wanted a Chinese actress again for the role of Irma Vep, but only because for the Asian market. And so that's why there was a role given to an Asian actress, like just in general, was for the Asian market.
Yeah. Which that in itself is bleak as hell, because it's like, okay, it's a thing, but it's like, okay, you're not going to consciously, like, as far as representation goes, you're not going to consciously have a character be Asian in all that entails. Like, as a person, you're just getting an actor that is Asian to play an already written character just for, like, monetary reasons. Or, like...
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah, no, I like, you're not necessarily hiring them just because they're a great actor already. You're hiring them because they're an Asian actor, and you want the audience they can bring in.
Yes.
Rather than for the talents that they have.
Yeah.
It was also, so what weirded me out, like, I was fine with Renee being a creep because it was like he was hung up on his ex-wife, or like that was like his character, he was seeing her ghost, and all that shit. I was like, okay, fine. Because I thought there was actually going to be a subplot where she takes over the role of Irma Vep, but that didn't happen.
No.
Yeah. But then Mira sees the ghost of Jade Lee.
Yeah.
And she asks her if she's upset that she takes over the role of Irma Vep, because she says that Irma Vep was an Asian role, which was a very weird scene to me.
Yeah, that's loaded.
And then, because then she has Mira asking about, whitewashing and representation, and it's like putting a lot onto this Asian woman.
Yeah, Jade's like, I don't act anymore. I really don't give a shit.
Yeah, and also like that's not an Asian role.
No, it's not.
It was a fucking French role.
Yes,
I was just an Asian actress that played the role. Like you're like putting all of this on this Asian woman who like doesn't actually exist in this moment either, because she's like a ghost of a person that's alive or whatever.
Yeah.
But like you're just kind of dumping all this on this Asian woman.
You know, I at the moment
It was very strange.
It was very strange. At the moment, I'm reading this book called it's an essay collection called How to Read Now by Elaine Castillo, and it's like essays about it's about a lot, but it talks about how in society we misread a lot. That just doesn't involve like actually like reading books and stuff. It's about like how we view the world and everything. And she talks about like the literary industry and how when you have writers of color, they are expected to sort of answer questions that the white audience has about race, about all sorts of things. And it's like they're supposed to they're expected to educate the white audience,
right?
Instead of just being able to tell stories and like exist in that space on their own, right? Like they become teacher by essentially. Whereas a white writer can just like tell a story about anything and they don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, you're seen as a black author instead of an author who's black.
Yeah. And that's almost like what was happening in the scene here, where it's like the expectation, it's like Jade Lee, you must have the answer to this question.
Right.
You know? It's like we have to come
or like you're upset at me because, I stole an Asian role. Yeah.
You're projecting your own issues onto this person who really is not involved. So I don't know. I felt like that was in the back of my mind here. Also, just as an aside, a terrific essay collection. The further I get into it, it feels like it's like I'm like reframing the way I look at a lot of like media and culture. Honestly, like the stuff you were saying about like media criticism, being able to like think critically and all that. Like this book is I highly recommend it if you're interested in that, because it does get into a lot of that. Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. But that's unrelated. Well, it's related, but it's not. I'm rambling.
The name sounds very familiar. I'm wondering if I
she has, I think, one novel that she's written. I haven't read anything by her before this, but yeah, she has a novel called America Is Not the Heart. Yeah.
We should probably wrap up.
Yes, we should. I was like, this doesn't have to be an hour, and it ends up being like over an hour? Oh, goddamn. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, definitely a worthwhile show. A lot going on. Some of it worked, some of it didn't, but it went for it.
Sure.
I respect it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mr. Isaias will have another opportunity at HBO going forward, but I'm glad that he had this one.
Yeah, and maybe in another 15 years he can remake Irma Vep into a podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. Really appreciate you checking this out. A little different from what we usually do, trying to break out the movie criticism into its own thing. So if you're somehow listening to the very end of this without checking out the main show, check out the main Dead End Road show. We talk about weird internet culture, along with some other media criticism. Sometimes we get into anime and games and things like that as well. And that's available on the same feed or also on YouTube. And you can follow me on Twitter at Dead End Road. Check out the Facebook at facebook.com/DeadEndRoadTV, twitch.tv/DeadEndRoadTV, where we do some live versions of the main show sometimes. Like this month, we'll be doing one on the 19th, and the archive will go up on YouTube. You can do YouTube search for Dead End Road TV. And you can email us if you have thoughts on Irma Vep at video@deadendroad.co. Yeah, that's going to do it for us with this little experiment. We'll catch you in the next one.
All right.
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 Catch you in the next one.
All right.